But who better than me?
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Hardcore Casual with your boy, BaseDaKID. So before I get started, welcoming everyone to the channel, I want to give a couple shout outs for some people that are the inspiration for this channel even being created in the first place. First and foremost, I want to give a big shout out to Ade Oladipo, because without him, this channel definitely wouldn't be here. He's been pushing me for months to get this started. So big shout out to him. And obviously much respect for the DAZN presentation gig, the Talk Sport, the Sky Sports News, transfers show, all that good stuff. So much respect to you. Big shout out to Ring IQ Boxing News, who makes arguably some of the best content on YouTube when it comes to boxing. Top quality content, amazing. If you haven't subscribed, check him out. Thirdly, Boxing Beats and Rhymes, very passionate, very knowledgeable. Some of the best commentary you will hear on the sport, in terms of fighters, the fights that are going down, and quite personally, I find him hilarious. Other people may not, but the way he talks, the way he says certain things just has me cracking up at most of his videos. Last but not least, I want to shout out the Undefeated podcast. Travis J and KG the Comedian. I've seen the journey from the very first episode of the podcast. I dipped off for a little bit, was doing some other things, sort of came back around the late 60s, early 70s period, and just to see the growth is amazing. Monday Night Smoke is a joy to watch and to be a part of. As some of you may know, I used to partake on there quite regularly. I'm retired now, but you never know, the right money might come out. But anyway, this channel is strictly my opinions, most of the time based on factual evidence that I will be able to present in some way, shape or form. But if it is just an opinion based on my, for lack of better words, emotion, or just my thoughts on certain things that I've seen, I'll state so. I have no affiliations with any broadcasters, with any promoters, with any boxers, with any camps, any teams. Like, I'm not affiliated with anybody. I know some people and I'm even friends with some people, but ultimately anything I say will be no capping, no caping, and no protection. Like, it's literally as I see it. And if you follow my track record and any other channels that I've been on, you will see that I don't hold back for friendship's sakes or to make someone feel better. Like, it's just not me. I'm not rude, I'm not disrespectful, I'm just honest. If you don't like honesty, this ain't the place for you. But with no further ado, let's get into it. So I guess the first place I got to start is the pay-per-view extravaganza that was on BT Sport last night, which was Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, I bought the pay-per-view. There was a lot of intrigue, a lot of interest. To me, it was kind of evenly matched in terms of talent levels, when it comes to boxing, not necessarily in life, but Tyron Woodley never boxed professionally, but has striking, has hands from his MMA days, but also was a very accomplished wrestler. And you got Jake Paul, who's a 3-0 novice, started boxing 3 years ago, so ultimately he's not going to be the finished article either. It was cool. But I want to talk about the card as a whole. So I'm going to start from the bottom and work my way up to the top. So I'm looking at, who is it? Tommy Fury versus Anthony Taylor. Anthony Taylor was, 5'6", 5'7". He was a welterweight in MMA, which is about 155 pounds. And Tommy Fury walks around at like 190. I can't lie, it's a bad look. Tommy Fury 7-0 with 4 KOs. But unless I'm mistaken, only 2 of the opponents he's been in the ring with have even won fights. I'm almost certain of that. At most, it's 3. So they literally have zeros on their win columns. And these people are taking you to points. Whether it's a 4-rounder or a 6-rounder, at this stage, it's not good enough. It just isn't. I'm struggling to think how far he's going to go in the sport. I can imagine calling out Jake Paul was nothing more than a cash grab, the same way that being on Love Island was a cash grab to a degree. Obviously, I know people don't necessarily get paid a huge amount on Love Island. You know, you get expenses or whatever, but just the opportunity to get your face in the public eye. But between him and Campbell Hatton, I can't lie. I think Campbell Hatton might end up having the better career because Tommy just doesn't seem to have it. And the fact that you don't seem to have the punch power at this level is concerning. Could be wrong. But either way, we'll move on. Now, my fight of the night was Ivan Baranchyk against Montana Love. This fight had me on the edge of my seat from the start to the finish. Like, Baranchyk caught man with big blows in rounds 2, rounds 3. And I think he caught him with a massive one in round 5 as well. Montana Love's got a chin on him because he took some shots and stayed on his feet. And his survival instincts are A1. Gotta commend him. Never seen him before. This was my introduction to him, but boy, it was amazing. But his movement from the southpaw stance, getting in and out, the way he was piecing up Baranchyk was also a thing of beauty. And when he knocked him down and the corner pulled him out and said, nope, no point taking any more of this beating, you just knew it looks like that could be a new star on the horizon. So I'm going to have to take an interest in him. So for him, that casual part is going to move to the hardcore. I want to see what he's doing moving forward. But that was my fight of the night. What was the next fight? It was Daniel Dubois against Joker Serrano. To be honest, I was kind of falling asleep when this happened, but essentially I didn't miss much because it was one round. Knocked him down twice. No, he called out Trevor Bryan at the end, I believe. So that makes sense. You know, you get that regular title, sit on that, you know, call yourself a champion for a period of time until you can either get a cash out against someone like AJ, or maybe that belt goes vacant, you find yourself elevated up there. For his progression, his journey, I can't complain. I mean, I don't know what he was wearing at the press conference, and even the weigh-in. His style, he needs a stylist very, very badly. But ultimately, he did what he was supposed to do. He did what Tommy Fury couldn't do, which was shine on the big stage. So I give him that. And we'll see how far Dubois moves moving forward. Then it was Serrano against Mercado. Now, this was actually a good fight. And I won't say that I'm a fan of Amanda Serrano, but I do like her style. Her skill set is unquestionable in both MMA and boxing. If you look at the way she is able to set up her shots, the spitefulness, obviously she's clearly got punch power, and she is a very credible source to women's boxing. The only issue is that every time she seems to fight, it's always bringing up someone from a lower weight class than where she is. She doesn't move up to fight someone bigger. She'll bring up someone smaller to fight them. Now, in the last, they said I think it was the last 6 or 7 fights, she's beat 4 world champions. Yeah, that's true. But only one of them was from the 126 weight class that she's competing in. So ultimately, what are you really doing? Now, I know there were issues within her own weight class with, I think, one of her opponents not taking the fight that was offered to them. I know that, I can understand that, so I can make allowances for that. But then there's a bunch of people at 130. Why not pull up a 130 person Why don't you go up to 130? Fight for a belt there. Better yet, if you're going to fight 122-pound opponents virtually back to back, then why not just go down to 122, fight them down there and take their belts? What's the point in defending your belt against people coming up when you could go down quite easily? Because we've seen her make even 115, I think she's made before. So to go down 4 pounds down to 122, take those belts. Be a 2-division simultaneous weight champion, and then as soon as one of the people at 126 is then free to have a unification, then go back up. In the women's box, it's a lot easier to hold belts in different divisions simultaneously. It would have made a lot more sense for me to do that. Take the belts at 122 and 126 at the same time, seeing as your division seems to be so fragmented. But regardless, it was a good performance. She does get hit quite a bit, but she seems to be pretty durable, and manages to kind of keep the head off the line, and always seems to get hit with looping shots that don't necessarily have the full torque on them. So, she seems to be all right. Never really looks battered or bruised at the end of any of her fights. So, good luck. Hopefully she gets those unifications that she wants, and ultimately the payday that she's been desperate to get from Katie Taylor, maybe she'll get a marquee value to the point that she'll actually get the money she's asking for. Who knows? Moving on to the main event. So, Tyron Woodley versus Jake Paul. Now, this was a very weird fight to score. So, when I was watching it, I wasn't scoring it like round by round, even though sort of I was kind of saying, okay, yeah, he won this round, he won that round. So when I initially watched it, I can't lie, I had it actually like 4-4. So I had it a draw, but not due to necessarily the activity, because Tyron was not throwing. Like, to be real, he threw the fight himself by not throwing shots. I don't know if he was worried about his gas tank or thinking all he needs to do is just land one shot here or there. But ultimately, if he had stepped on the gas a couple of times, he definitely could have taken out Jake. Because obviously we saw what happened in the 4th round, where he had him wobbled like several times in that round, even though right at the end of that round, Jake actually wobbled him. And people missed it, but I saw it right at the end. Tyron literally, he had to stumble into Jake and hold on because he got hit with a straight right that was quite telling. But the way I see things, there was 2 rounds I literally gave him just off of positive aggression, like cutting off the ring, making Jake having to move around, sort of swinging wildly, like hitting gloves, nothing was really connecting, but he was just being pushed around the ring, made to move, made to have his back on the ropes. So ultimately, I gave Tyrone those rounds just off of the aggression and almost the ring generalship. But I could understand totally if someone gave them to Jake. So ultimately, I think 5-3 to Jake was a fair result, to be fair. Even the 6-2, I can't argue with any of the scorecards. Having Tyrone win 5 rounds is the only thing I can disagree with, because the way I saw it, it was either a draw or Jake did enough to win. I didn't see Tyrone win 5 rounds. I could possibly see 4. Like I said, with 2 rounds of just pure aggression and 2 rounds of actually effective punching and strikes, but 5, no. Also, I'm keen to know, should Jake Paul have technically got given a knockdown? Because the way he fell into those ropes, if they weren't there, he would have dropped. It was not a case of being able to, hold yourself and compose yourself. Like, he literally was on his way to the canvas. Food for thought, but who knows? Tyron immediately discounted the Tommy Fury thing and said, look, let's run it back for part 2. He's supposed to get the tattoo on the leg. I haven't been on my social media today, so I don't know if he's done that. Be interesting to find out. And Jake said yeah, he'll run it back if he gets the tattoo. I don't know though, but both of his post-fight interviews made it very much seem as if he's starting to rethink this whole boxing thing. It's almost like this fight was the reality call that he never had in the last 3 or 4, I should say, because even you had the Deji fight as well, which we forget about. It's almost like, oh, now I'm in there with someone that's new to this, but is still giving me problems. And no, actually, these punches hurt more than I thought they would. And there's a lot of things I got to work on that I naturally thought I was good at. Who knows? Be interesting times. He'll either have to do the fight in December, or that fight ain't happening until sort of next year, May. If there's a rematch next year, May or June. Because he ain't going to have it any time before that. Because, like me, he's a Capricorn. He's going to want to enjoy that little birthday period. He definitely ain't going to want to be training during that time. So, he's either going to do it before then, or it's going to be way after. It'll be interesting. What else did we have? Over the weekend, we had a Queensbury card. So, who was on that card now? Akeem Ennis-Brown versus Sam Maxwell. Let me just state, as everyone else probably has, robbery. I can't say anything other than robbery. I do not know where Sam Maxwell got 8-4 on 2 judges' scorecards. I've watched it a couple of times, and there's not more than 3 rounds I was able to give Sam Maxwell every time I watched it. If you want to say that maybe my eyes are skewed, all right, you could give him a 4th. But where did the other 4 come from? Now, I heard rumours Akeem Ennis-Brown might not be that liked in the industry for whatever reason. I don't know. Again, like I said, I'm not involved in any camps. I don't know any, behind the scenes politics for the most part. But yeah, it didn't really seem something. There was a screw job. It was planned. It was like the Montreal screw job from '97. Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels. If you know, you know. But yeah, it looked like no matter what happened, unless he was going to knock out Sam Maxwell, he was not getting that victory. That's just clearly what it was. Disgraceful. It's got to be looked into. We'll see how that transpires. You had Anthony Yard on the bill, the beast from the East, in a nothing fight, to be totally honest. I mean, I don't know what the point of that was. If it was a case to just kind of get back out in the ring in front of the fans, okay, fair enough. But knocking out a former middleweight in 1 round does what for your legacy, does what for your brand? Because you can't even put that on your highlight reel to say, oh, yeah, I'm back. Like, what are you back to? Like, you knocked out a former middleweight, a guy that was clearly out of shape. I mean, we saw the physique. This guy at one point, I swear, even had a fight at cruiserweight, like with a belly that was just overflowing. So you can already imagine he doesn't really take his career that seriously. And the problem with Yard is a very similar problem that you have with Hughie Fury. He will fight a bunch of nothing opponents and look great and spectacular against them, then go in against upper tier levels, or at least very competitive, whether they're upper tier or not, and then be found wanting because there's no middle ground fights, there's no building fights. Everything is either essentially journeyman, world. Journeyman, world. There's not even any gatekeepers in the roster, in the lineup, on the resume to say, okay, I'm learning this, I'm learning that. So I don't know. Repeat or revenge? I'm not going to make the prediction yet. I'm going to leave that till closer to the time. But ultimately, I wasn't impressed with that. It's not. It proved nothing to me. It proved nothing to the fans. It proved nothing to his next opponent coming up, and it didn't even really prove anything to him because he can beat those kind of people all day long. Like, he's not a terrible fighter. He's just either not as good as he thinks he is, or his team thinks he is, or he's just not as confident to risk it unless the lights are on bright. I don't know. There was a couple other fights on that card, but to be honest, I didn't really stick around to watch them. I literally only watched that card for the Ennis-Brown and Maxwell fight. So all the others, I can't remember who won what, you know. But overall, it was a fun weekend of boxing. A lot of controversy, a lot of things you can pick apart. We go again this weekend coming. Headingley, Leeds. I'm definitely going to have some hot takes for that at the end of that one. Might even do a little live stream. Who knows? But ultimately, it's the first episode down. It will improve. The setup's going to get better. Graphics will get better. Like, I'm going to add some stuff. Like, you're going to have to give me a little bit of time. Like I said, even though I've kind of been planning to start it, some things just weren't quite right at the minute. But like and subscribe, follow the journey, and I will catch you on the next one. Until then, Hardcore Casual out.